Everyone keeps telling me I need to make more content for my business, that I need to post more, need to create more, and that I need to show up in more places. Feels a bit like every time I close my eyes, all I can see is Alex and Gary yelling at me saying, "You got to be making more content, 100 pieces a day, 800 pieces a day." That's it. It's that simple, and you don't need to do anything else. And honestly, when you're trying to run a business as well at the same time, that can be pretty difficult. So we hired someone to do it with us, a creative guy who's run a full service agency for over 5 years. He managed editors, designers, projects the whole way through. Basically, his whole job was to make brands like us look good for our audience.
Yeah, I'm the guy they hired. And even with my own experience and content team, I still couldn't find time to make content for my own agency. So how the heck do you balance delivering a great product and telling people that product exists? Well, Ken and Daryl are breaking down how we're doing it here at Clipflow. All right, lads. So tell me, what are some of the struggles? What are the tension points with creating content at Clipflow right now?
Thinking about content, actually producing that content, scheduling that content. There's a whole bunch of things. It's a full-time job, let's be honest. Even just reviewing performance, seeing how those things work so you can figure out how to adjust for next time. It becomes a big thing. And what we found was it was becoming a bit overwhelming. We were finding that we didn't really want to do the content anymore because we were like, it doesn't really provide value in the way that we want to provide value. And that we know that we could spend that same time investing into an app that really made our users happy. We can see this because we're actually doing it, is talking to our users, delivering on our promises and doing it really fast, leaves a very long-lasting impression, which then turns into referrals and organic growth in that way.
The end result that you want to get to is growing your business. And there are a million paths to get there. You can focus on content to get people into the business. You can focus on getting referrals, improving your product. And the thing I always think of when I'm thinking about personal brand is like Gary Vaynerchuk and Alex Hormozi, those sort of people. It's almost misleading to everyone because they look at what they're doing in content and think, that's how I'm going to grow my business because that's what these people are doing. But when Gary Vaynerchuk was doing Wine Library TV, he was focused on the customer, delivering wine, flying across the country to send someone wine to give them a really good experience. He wasn't making content at that time. And it's very easy to get pulled into the direction of I have to be making content all the time like those people because that's how they got there. And they did get there through some content, but they also got there from making really good business decisions.
We're looking at those guys now, which is like 10 years later, where they're spending millions of dollars to produce this content. You're not doing it by yourself, bootstrap. Like Hormozi's first podcast was him in a little closet and he's just talking to himself, right? With very few views. And this is the thing, it's a long game. So if you approach it as that, it kind of can take a little bit of the pressure off because you realize what I'm doing now is setting me up for a long time and it's making I'm going to get better over time. And I'm using it as like training, but I'm just getting it out there. I'm putting it out there. There might be one or two people that watch it, but that's not the core driver.
Okay. So would you say creating content is essentially a distraction?
It is, because we are time limited and it's very new. We have two people trying to build a product and we can deliver in the same time like that it takes me to record a video, edit it and get it out there and then review it and schedule. It could take a whole day. I can build a very big feature that moves the needle for our business in a big way. So I'm a software engineer. I talk about software. So the content that I make doesn't really help drive traffic to Clipflow and doesn't really help build Clipflow. It's kind of like a passion project. And that's why I started it, is to help other software engineers. And Daryl, being in product, that's his forte. He knows how to talk to product people. Again, that's not who our product is for. Clipflow is for content creators and business owners. Business owners making content. So for us, it was very much kind of feeling like we're spending a lot of time kind of trying to inflate a personal brand, which isn't really the thing that's going to make the business better.
The thing that worked the best for us and what we're doing now, I think, is to just picture yourself, your personal brand is you are a face of the business. Every value that you want to provide, if it's not to your customers, it's going to feel like it's not worth doing. Because it's really hard when you're starting out and you're not getting much reach. You're getting a couple of hundred views here and there. It's really hard to put long-term value on that for the business that you're trying to grow. But if you were just helping 3 people who are your direct customer, they're not your customer yet, but 3 people who are exactly the type of customer you want, if you help them, that's going to be a lot easier for you to mentally attribute to this is valuable long-term, because you're talking about the pains and you're helping people who your software or your product is trying to help.
So if content is so important, how does it play out in your business? How do you guys prioritize it amongst the actual work that needs to be done?
So what we've done is we see content as marketing, and a very important piece of building a business is marketing, right? Especially in the day of AI where everyone can just build apps left, right, and center. It's like, how do you get your marketing message out and how do you actually become personal? And for us, it's like, we are, people, and you can see that these are real people that are building this app. They're enthusiastic about it, and people can relate to us. Now, what we do is we dedicate a single day a week, which is a lot of time. It's a full day where we sit down and we actually produce our content. So this is where we're like ideating, we're writing down outlines and scripts, and then we're recording them. As a business owner, I think it's super key to understand you need to leverage your time as best as possible. And sometimes that means spending money. And this is where we would recommend outsourcing the things you can. So if that's writing scripts, if that's editing your video, if that's doing your thumbnails and outsourcing those, you should be doing that. Because like it takes me 2 hours to edit a clip. And then it's like, well, what could I be doing with that 2 hours? What would move the needle more? So if you can find leverage there and say, well, I can pay $100 to get the clip edited, and then is my hourly worth more than $100? If it is, you should be doing that other thing. If your hours are worth nothing, like you're just starting a business for the first time, then yeah, maybe you can save money that way, but maybe put it outside of work hours. Like say, okay, cool, I'm going to do my work and then I'm going to do it after hours, and that's my edit time. It is harder, obviously, but if you have money and you're running a business, you're hopefully making some income. I think these are the kind of things where you should figure out, like, I can spend money to make that problem go away.
So we obviously, with one of the personal brand podcasts, we were doing batch creation where we would do 4 podcasts in one session and then edit them, ship them out like ad hoc over a time period versus creating on the fly. Now, a couple of the things, now that we've sort of readjusted and I'm really focused on Clipflow, a couple of times in the last week, I've had something pop into my head that I know like I've just gone and recorded it and it's sitting there ready to be edited or whatever. If I didn't record it at that time, I would think to myself later that it's a stupid idea and not to bother. But because you do it at the time, you're more likely to put it out there, and it's a volume game with personal branding, with content. It's a volume game. You've got to be putting that stuff out there. So I'm finding pretty good results with going more on the fly, less batch. However, if you're easily distracted by business problems, like our business, we're pretty lucky in support comes in as emails. We can choose to respond to it or not. If you're in a business that's like very sales focused, you're getting phone calls, you're getting emails all the time, and you're like spinning plates everywhere, it's probably better to block time out and try and get like a good period of time blocked out. But if you can, a lot of the time things are going to come in and you'll just get prompted for an idea for content. First off, capture it, write it down is probably the best way to do it. But if you can, record something quickly and don't worry so much about doing the full setup stuff. Just record it on your phone so you have it there to remind you later to record it properly. Just get it like a bit more cemented in stone.
There's pros and cons to each. One's like time savings. You can sit down, like if you are a very busy CEO or something, you can just come in, do your block. And big people do this. They sit down and they do a day of content, and that's content day, right?
And I think the more outsourced you are, the more of your team that's outsourced, the better that is. Because you have someone research, do some writing, you have the editors take it, and everyone just like takes everything away from you. So you have that real focus. But if you're doing less outsourcing and less other team members.
But I think the one pro to doing content kind of, we were releasing weekly, so we were doing 4 episodes and releasing over a month. What happens is that topic can become stale in that time because you've taken so long to get it out. It also is you have less opportunity to look at how it performs and adjust because you've gone and recorded, let's say you recorded 30 clips and you did it in a certain way with a certain background or a certain something. You now release 30 pieces of media, but you can't iterate on that. Because you've sent 30, you sent it, like it's done. So you have to wait till the next batch to iterate. Whereas if you're doing more frequently, like we're doing 1 a week.
Revision cycles, you can do the 1% improvement each time.
Correct. So you get more opportunity. So you can see how it performs and you have the time to cycle through it quicker and actually go, oh, okay, next time let's improve the hook. Okay, next time let's talk about this topic. Or this topic's time sensitive. Let's chuck it in there. So by doing it that way, I think you have a little bit of a a different opportunity. But again, if you are struggling for time and can batch it out, I think it still works well as long as you are very, you got your team in play and you can come in, focus, smash it out. And if that's the best you can do, it's better than nothing. Put it that way. It's way better than nothing.
Yeah.
I guess you kind of answered this question, but how do you make it sustainable? How would business owners make it sustainable to create content?
Yep. Well, so this is something that we tried, and it sort of ties back into do whatever you can with the time you've got. Repurposing by cutting shorts out of the podcast things and the things we were talking about. It didn't have like a great result, but it was better than no result for what we were trying to do at the time, which is like just get profiles out there. Good for getting it out there, but as for like a conversion to an audience, it didn't really do much because people expect a certain caliber of hook, body, value in them. And if you're just repurposing long videos into shorts, doesn't quite do that. So it didn't have the growth that we were sort of hoping for.
Yeah, I think there's a key point there too, though, is the type of edit. So it's how much time you're investing in editing. So if you're going to use some AI tool, like they've all been touted to be the best thing ever, they're actually not really. They don't do that amazing of a job. So if you had an editor focus on your short from a podcast, I guarantee they could get you a really good short, but you've got to be investing money. So just purely repurposing, as in like low effort repurposing, probably doesn't get, but you are on the platform, like Daryl said, you're still getting, even if it's 500 views on a short, it's better than zero.
Yeah, it's better than zero, better than not having anything out there.
It's all about scale. Where are you at? How much money are you making? How much can you invest in content and marketing? And then that moves on to, like we've spoken about, is like hiring or outsourcing content production. So content creators, like virtual assistants, editors, thumbnail designers, agencies. Like if you've got money, you can pay agencies to come in, literally just come sit down in a studio and just go and batch it out and just move on.
And finally, like having a system in place to store it all. That would be like the big benefit, because right now we're recording into a live streaming or recording platform. Sometimes you record stuff on your camera, sometimes you do it on your phone. Having actual projects stored somewhere, especially for once you want to start outsourcing and hiring editors and stuff, get everyone in the same place on the same page.
Yeah, systems are going to help you in the long term to scale out your content production for sure. Like you need to be able to know and have scheduled dates, delivery dates. Where's my team? Like, where is this piece of content? All that. You want those headaches to disappear. You don't want them to be ticking in your brain the whole time, especially for me, like a person like me, you constantly like, I need to get that thing out. That needs to be published. It just starts consuming, and that kind of moves into where content starts encroaching on your personal life. Like it actually becomes, like we said, all consuming, where you're constantly checking stats to see how the video performed. You're constantly, because you're thinking of, like it's that in dopamine kind of, oh yeah, I got views. But really where we need to come from is like, what is it doing long term for our business? Because you can't actually track that stuff. It's really difficult to do that. Like we've had referrals from, software videos that I've done where I've mentioned Clipflow, where someone's seen that and then mentioned it to a content creator. It's hard to like really figure that out, but it's just about showing up and constantly providing value. And I think that's like all content. It's right. What value are you providing to the viewer? Why are they sitting with you and watching your stuff?
And I guess the last question, and one that I've struggled with myself, how do you avoid or dodge that feeling of making pointless content? Feels like there's plenty of it out there.
It definitely does become a chore. When we were doing the batch recording of the podcast and just going off articles to just try and talk about stuff, it didn't really feel like, it just felt like something you had to do, and it's much harder to attribute it to value. So back to what you were saying about like not worrying about the numbers, not letting it encroach on your personal life. If you have a really clear picture in your mind of, I want to answer these questions and help this person, I've got a visual representation of this person, what they're struggling with, and I want to help them, you're not going to care if you get 300 or 3,000 views, because you know that those exact people you were trying to help are in there and they're getting help, and you're not going to get dragged into this, I've just got to make another video for the algorithm, because otherwise the algorithm's not going to serve my video, and I've already got a 10K viewed video, and if I don't match that, I won't feel good, because I've already been sent the signals in my brain that 10K is how valuable I am, and if I'm not more than that, I'm failing. But the more you can just decide what you're trying to do with the channel or with your many channels, and just be happy with the result of that, regardless of the numbers, because you know you're helping someone, that's going to be a lot easier to not have it really feel like a chore, because something will pop into your mind. You're like, oh, I think this would help someone I spoke to the other day. I'll just talk about it. That's not going to feel like a chore, because in your head, you're just helping someone.
Mm, definitely. And even sometimes, like, it's cool, the kind of mental visualization we do sometimes. Like, imagine if there were 100 people in a room right now listening to you talk about this. That's a lot of people. Like, we lose track because it's just a digital number, and it becomes like this thing that it loses all context. But it's like literally put 100 people in a room, and they're talking to you about, you're talking to them about finding time to create content, and they're all listening to you. They all took the time out of their day to come listen to you. That's a lot of people. So
Do you
you
know
can
what
put
I
it.
always find funny with that is thinking about how much harder it would be to keep talking if you had 100 people watching, but you can see the retention drop off because the crowd just starts leaving the room.
Well, hopefully that provides some value for you. But like, this is what we're doing to find time for content, and kind of how we're thinking and evaluating how we do it. Because I think it's a super important part, but it is important to also recognize, what can I do and how can I leverage my time the best? Is it content creation? It may not be content creation in this phase. It's important to understand that we really wanted to document our journey, because we've done a business and we didn't do any of that. So this time we want to do it, and it's really valuable. We looked back at 10 months ago, we created our first video for this. So it was really cool to see that change. But it may not be right for you now. It may be something, you could do super low effort. Can I do it on my phone, FaceTime style, and then move on, do more pro when I have the team that can step in and I can move more into that kind of face of the company role. So yeah, try not to make you feel too bad.
Yeah, it's a business outcome at the end of the day, and as a founder or business entrepreneur, you're meant to be really good at that, and it's quite hard to attribute dollar values to each of these things. But if you were spending $50 over here and $50 over here, and you got much better results over here, you would do it. So don't always listen to you have to be doing personal brand and content, because it might not be what's delivering the most value right now. And if you waste too much time doing the wrong thing, in the same way that if you spent too much money on ads and you had no money left and you had to shut down the business, that would be bad for business. So make sure you're thinking about the actual business outcome and if it's working for you right now.
Nailed it. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Catch you on the next one.
Peace. If you like the content, you might like this book. It's a $100 million content engine, and it'll teach you everything you need to know to go from 0 to 1 billion followers in 5 days.